So then what, like, take us to that transition. So you know, they're going to church, right? They're doing the, I guess they're checking off the box, but nothing necessarily a strong foundation that has been built inside of you. So at what point did you start to make that transition for yourself?
It took me a long time, really. Actually, it kind of started. I was just kind of traveling around the neighborhood. I used to skateboard and stuff like that when I was younger, and I got into popping pills with my friends in high school and stuff like that. And I was high riding around this parking lot, and I rolled up on this church, and I read the building sign. It said Discover Life Church, and I'm like, man, it's the tiniest church I ever seen. So I walk in. It ended up being the church office. I wasn't really familiar with how all that stuff worked and all that. I just figured,
Right.
the church office would be inside the church, but this one, they had like they were running their church out of a movie theater. So they were kind of doing things to
Oh, okay.
start up their church. And
Yeah.
I came in there and asked them, like, so what's this all about? And they sat down, and I mean, those people planted some seeds in me. And
Mm.
I didn't really grasp that at the time. I uh I kind of shunned it a little bit, but I was still there, and they told me, as long as I was there, they didn't care about the rest. Like they knew when I showed up and I
Mm.
was high. They knew when I showed up and I was messing up, but they still loved me anyway. And that kind of caught me. What I mean? It wasn't something that I was used to. It was more of like something that people would push you away. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it was just something different about them. So that was kind of like the beginning of finding that, seeing the Christ in them was the beginning of what changed me. But that was just the start, man. I went through so much more after that.
Man. Yo, that's powerful. That's powerful. Like, so that's such an important thing that we as Christians tend to forget, right? We something that I normally say, and I'm sure I've heard it elsewhere, but I know I've said it several times between my friend group, but and I said it last week. Those who are forgiven from much forgive much, right?
Yeah.
And we as Christians tend to very quickly forget how much we've been forgiven, or our story isn't quote unquote that bad, and so it's kind of like, yeah, but I mean, I wasn't like that dude. Like, I didn't get into that kind of stuff. I wasn't that far gone,
Yeah.
and I think that's such a rude wake up call for people when they hear stories like yours, where it's like, yo, people actually loved on me, and had they have done what I don't want to say it's typical, because like our audience, I would say, is very much on the same wavelength of like, yeah, no, we just love you right where you are.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean accept, right? Because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
love in 2022 like is all perverted, right? It's all twisted where, I gotta accept it. I gotta, keep my mouth shut and all of that. And it's like, nah, real love calls you out on that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So, and
That's
that's
true.
important, bro. So, okay, let's talk, because we talk a lot about discipleship and everything else here. So, you got people who are, so we kind of take me back to that mindset of, you knew, that you weren't like quote unquote like cleaning up your life, right away type deal. But you could tell that, man, these people are loving me in a different way than I've experienced before. If you could take me back then, what was that like for you? Like, what did they tell you, hey, you need to stop doing this, or was it like they loved on you, but then kind of just like challenged you to like grow in different ways? Like, what was that process like?
For me, man, at that point in time, I wasn't really accepting of it, I guess. Like I said, I
Mm.
kind of pushed it away a little bit, but I would still find myself coming back to church. I'd be in the back of church messaging a dealer, or in the back of the church messaging somebody getting ready to go do
Mm.
something, and I'm in church. And see, these guys, they knew, what I was going through. They knew the type of stuff that I was into, and
Yeah.
they told me that they wanted me there regardless. And they met me where I was. It wasn't a matter of wanting to clean me up. They wanted to see, God do the work through them. And I think that's kind of the way that it should be. It should be.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be judging them. Like, they didn't come to me and be like, hey man, you're doing wrong. You need to get your life together. You need Jesus. You need this. They just loved me through it. And they didn't really point out, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're high. They didn't point out, oh, you need to do this. They knew that I knew those things. They knew that I knew I was doing wrong. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
even though I was, they were still happy to see me there. Every time they'd see me in public or every time they'd see me anywhere, they'd say something. And there was one guy who stuck out more than everybody else. And I had spoke about this one other time. His name was Jimmy Nichols. And this dude was an ex gangbanger, and he would come out to the hood where I would be hanging out. I mean, he would come out into the middle of this and come and knock on doors, come and looking for me just to pick me up and take me to lunch and sit down and talk with me. And I mean, I kind of hated it. Like I loved it, but at the same time I hated it because I'm like, bro, why are you coming out here, man? Why
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
Why are you coming out here to try to show me love and trying to pull me out? Like, what do you want? What's this about? You know what I mean? I didn't understand why he was doing what he was doing, but he had seen a little bit of him inside of me and was like, man, I
Mm.
want to do something. And he, to this day, I mean, I've talked to him about it. You know, now he knows kind of how that worked out, but he planted seeds back then that he never knew were actually going to take root. I mean, he was doing it
Wow.
thinking, you know, I just want to show him love. He wasn't thinking about everything else. And in scripture it says that it says Paul planted and Apollos watered, and it said that neither one of them were anything, that God was the one who made those things grow, that they each had their own job, but God was the one who was going to see it through. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And they stuck
Yep.
with that. They stuck by me regardless of it. And it eventually was what led to it. So it led to me being saved.